broke his neck, broke his jaw, excuse me. He broke his jaw and had an iron brace around his neck. So every time William Seward was stabbed, it hit the metal neck brace. The only thing that Seward suffered was a cut on his cheek. He made a full recovery. That man then dropped the knife in the middle of the street, started walking out screaming, "I'm mad, I'm mad." He was probably mentally insane, but he was killed anyways. The man who was supposed to kill John Wilkes Booth, the man who was supposed to kill Ulysses S. Grant and President Lincoln, because Ulysses S. Grant was supposed to be with Lincoln that night to see the show. But Ulysses S. Grant's wife wanted to make a trip to Philadelphia to see their son. So they left. And Abraham Lincoln invited his friend, Major General Rathbone, to accompany him in the theater. Now, when they went and saw the show, Lincoln, his wife Mary Todd, Major General Rathbone, and his wife were in the presidential suite. John Wilkes Booth did not have to, but decided to, that morning on April 14, 1865, check his mail at the theater. As he came in to check his mail, one of the other employees of the theater said to John Wilkes Booth, "I'm setting up the presidential suite. Apparently the president will not be seeing Aladdin. He'll be coming here tonight." It was at that moment that John Wilkes Booth knew that he was going to, that the plan was going to happen. John Wilkes Booth was a very famous actor. In fact, Abraham Lincoln once saw a show and said after seeing John Wilkes Booth in a theater in a play of Shakespeare, he said, I would like to meet that actor, for he does a good job." Unfortunately, their paths didn't cross. John Wilkes Booth, knowing the theater very well, had his horse outside of the exit door to our stage, to our left, where he had his horse there waiting. John Wilkes Booth then came through the back entrance and walked behind the scenes, walked up the stairwell, and no one thought anything of it because Booth was a famous actor who had worked here before. It was not a big deal. It's kind of like seeing an elementary school teacher in the middle school. Not a big deal. They work here, so watch your back. John Wilkes Booth then walked up, opened the door, took out his dagger, stabbed the security guard that was guarding President Lincoln, then stabbed Major General Rathbone, took a single shot, fired it, the 44 caliber Derringer in the back of Lincoln's head. The bullet lodged just behind Lincoln's eye. John Wilkes Booth jumped up onto the stage where his spur got caught on the flag. That is not the actual flag, and that is not the actual items that would have been in the theater, but that is a replica of what it looked like the night Lincoln was shot. As his spur got caught on the flag, he hit the stage and broke his femur. In the middle of the stage, raised his knife and said, "Sic semper tyrannis," which is Latin for "thus is the tyrants," which is the Virginia state motto. He was saying it because he was a Virginian, and he was proud to be from Virginia. As he hobbled off stage, no one really had known what was going on at the time. People thought it was a part of the act, because John Wilkes Booth waited until 10:18 p.m. to shoot the president, where at the point of the play was the most laughter and the most action going on stage. So no one really heard the gunshot. But when someone from the stands yelled, "The president had been shot," that changed everything. A couple of days after, John Wilkes Booth then fled the city with his broken leg and then made his way into Virginia, where he was captured. He was surrounded by a barn. John Wilkes Booth was then told that he would have been turned in. He said, "I refuse to go." Secret Service agents then surrounded, military officials surrounded the barn to which Booth was in, and one soldier shot him in the back, hit him in the middle of his spine. He was paralyzed from the neck down. They dragged him out into the field, to which John Wilkes Booth said to the man, "I would like to look at my hands." And John Wilkes' last words were looking at his hands, where he said, "Useless, useless," because his plan to thwart the government was in fact useless. He did not overthrow the government. The South did not rise again. And then Reconstruction would last from 1865 to 1877, to which that is the story of John Wilkes Booth, Ford's Theater, and the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. The other men, the conspirators who fought or went with Booth, they were all hanged, including the first woman in American history, Mary Surratt, who was hanged as well. She was the first woman to be hanged in American history for committing a crime. The conspirators all met in her boarding house to conspire to the plan. Even though Mary Surratt did not have anything to do with it, her son John did. but John escaped into Canada and then was not found until 2 or 3 years later, and then was brought to the United States, where he too was then sent to prison for a certain amount of time, and then he was exhumed. He was left out of prison. So there's your story about the Ford's Theater. Hope you enjoyed it.